Welcome in, guys. Thanks for coming back. My name is Paul Prosise. This is the Paul Prosise podcast. I have not done one in a really, really long time. Hey, guys, it's 9/11, or, well, the day before 9/11. Wanted to do a special podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about 9/11. I was a young, very young police officer at 9/11, and I did have some experience with it, actually. It's important for me to at least address 9/11 because I did have some residual effects from 9/11. It did affect my department. It affects everybody. I mean, it still affects everybody in America today, of course, and we know that. You can find me at Paul Prosise everywhere. At Paul Prosise, and then paulprosise.com specifically. Go to the About page. You can support me, and it is important. I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. We're going to talk about some other things, but let's get to 9/11 and how I'd love to hear about your stories of 9/11. Let me know in chat. Send me an email, paulprosise@pm.me. That's a secure email. 9/11 affects all of us because it changed the way that we see the world. 9/10, we were going about things normally. And then 9/11 happened and we see the world differently. 9/12 is when the world came together and we came together as a country and we said we can fight back together. And we loved each other and we understood each other. We didn't see each other's differences, and we understood that in spite of our differences, we can overcome them and we can love each other and we can unconditionally get past them for a common goal. And isn't it interesting that today we're being told that those things don't matter? In fact, they don't matter so much that we need to care about those things. In fact, we need to hate each other because of those. Those very things that brought us together and have brought us together for years, for centuries. And sure, we fought about those things and fought through those things and have been painful in years past. And we can talk about those things. But isn't it interesting that we are fighting some of the same battles over and over again because we seem to have forgotten the lessons that we learned. It's painful to me to see that the things that I learned on 9/11 and after, that we've just thrown those away. As a young police officer, I experienced a whole lot of death in the outcome, the aftermath. Of course, I was woken up that morning by my mom. I'd worked a long shift. So that morning it was early morning, and my wife and I sat on a couch and we watched the footage, and of course we watched the buildings collapse. And it was devastating. It was shocking. And then my wife had to go off to school for one of her classes. And I knew things were probably going to get shut down, being security minded and stuff. And so I strapped on my gun, and I knew that I was going to get called in. So I walked over to the campus that she was at. We were in a small Christian college just outside of Kansas State University. And so I walked over to the campus and walked into the president of the school. I'm like, you're probably going to need to shut down the school. And then I walked over to where her classroom was. And I said, you need to probably come home. She decided to stay there on campus and do a little prayer vigil and stuff. And I went off to work. The aftermath of that, days and weeks go by, and we actually, because Fort Riley, Kansas was there, is actually one of the places that the president, Air Force One touched down, and we had to do security for that. And there's multiple stories that happened there. There was some security things, and so there was some investigation things. There's a lot of stories in that. But one of the other stories that came out of the aftermath, the fallout, the unfortunate side effects of 9/11 was the stock market collapsing. And with that unfortunate side effect is there's a lot of people lose their livelihoods. And in the town that I was a police officer, there was a small financial hub, interestingly enough, in the middle of Kansas. And there was a few businesses that had collapsed. And so with that, unfortunately, there was a rash of suicides. And I, for whatever reason, just on my shift, it fell on me. And as being with the rookie, I ended up getting those calls. And so I had to go and experience, and I had never experienced death before in my life. Nobody near me in my family other than, I won't bore you with the details, but that was the first time I'd ever seen dead bodies and seen and experienced death. And some of those things are gruesome and gory. And I'm 21 years old, 20 and 21 years old. Very real, very raw. And it's 20 years later. I'm 41 years old now. And I still have those vivid memories, and they come back to me. Of course, you have the other things that you experience as a police officer that are still there. 9/11 is very personal, very, very deep. And everybody experienced 9/11 in a different way that was old enough to do that. I'd love to hear your stories and what you experienced on that day. But we're not carrying these stories out with us when we think about how we're dealing with people, are we? Because we are so frustrated with the way that things have gone. In the aftermath of 9/11, of course, we quickly get the Patriot Act. And initially, a lot of us freedom-loving patriots, us dyed-in-the-wool Republicans, supported this. We need to take the attack to them. What we didn't understand is what the Patriot Act was going to do to us. What we didn't understand, it was a progressive mindset. We didn't understand that this was a status Woodrow Wilson wet dream. Really. That this was a utopia for the 1984 just backdoor everything, horrible just experience that we're seeing play out today. That it would lead to a president being able to be spied on. How did we get there? In a video that I did almost 2 years ago now, I asked, how did we get here? And it was more of, I'd left politics. I'd left everything. I actually stopped looking at social media other than sports. And I really kind of emerged from this like coma of stuff. And I was like, how, and I was truly asking, how did we get here? How was it that we got to this place? And I'm asking you guys this too. Please let me know. How did we get here? How did we get from a place in 9/12 where we all loved each other so much to this place that we are literally telling each other, and people can simplify it and say CRT, Marxism. Okay, we can simplify it that way, but how did we get to the point where we allowed each other to hate each other? We can simplify it too and say social media, Sure. That's part of the degradation of society, and I understand that. And we can allow the algorithms to manipulate us into hating this group and that group if you allow yourself to do that. Can I kind of suggest something else? It's because we're no longer standing for something. If we don't stand for something, then we stand for nothing. We've got to be immoral people. We've got to be virtuous people. If we're not a virtuous people, then again, we won't stand for anything. We've got to stand for something. For me and my wife, and me and my life, and me and my family, we stand for the truth. Truth, justice, and mercy. Sounds like a Marvel comic, but it's truth, justice, and mercy. It comes straight from Scripture. The Bible talks to us about that. Living in truth, living in mercy. Seek justice, seek mercy. A Micah 6:8 reference. We do these things. We choose to do these things. But I get them. Like, my audience has grown quickly and fast and furiously. There's so many people that are following me that are not Christians. And I understand that. And I thank you so much for being a part of this. And I hear you and I welcome you. I am not going to like, hey, go away. Because we can't do this without each other. And if your value system is really just, I believe in truth and freedom, I welcome you. And I thank you so much for being here. And we can work together despite our differences. In fact, if you are whatever your values are, you are welcome to be a part of what we are doing here and building here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being supportive. Whether you're just liking and sharing, and it's not a just liking. If you are liking and sharing these things on Facebook, on Instagram, on Rumble, on Facebook, on YouTube, there we go. It means something to me. It means something that we can align in some way, shape, or form on our values as Americans. I'm humbled by that. I'm humbled by the insane amount of, and I'm speaking mostly, frankly, because a lot of you guys are on Facebook, and I get that. But I am humbled by, quite literally, in 28 days, we've had almost 400,000 reach and engagements. That's insane to me, literally, because like a month ago, I was struggling to talk to anybody. And it comes right on the heels of these mandates, and like I'm looking at like, okay, I can get a job. Looking at my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna go get a job, and we can, let's just do this. Not a big deal. So I was told you that I was going to talk about some other things, so let's get into that. These mandates that we saw come out from Biden, and we've talked about this on my page, the mandates that we've seen from Biden, how do we get from there, from 9/11, 9/12, and coming together? How do we get to a society that comes from there? It's because we haven't stood for something. When we have presidents that call us deplorables, and we have a president, I know that a lot of you loved Trump. Personally, I wasn't the biggest Trump fan, even though I voted for him the second time. I didn't vote for him the first time, and people were like, oh, that's shocking. I wasn't like a big MAGA head. I just wasn't. I didn't like that he said 2 Corinthians, so sue me. I just, you know him by his words. Like, you know him by what he says. I just had problems with these things. I hated the braggadocious stuff. Like, those things always bothered me. But I liked a lot of his policies. And I hated a lot of his policies. So we can agree to disagree on stuff. I came around and I supported him in the end. I think that's what we need to be. We need to be people that come together. But I was never like, I'm never going to be, I was never a never Trumper kind of a guy either. I'm just like, okay, well. I think that we've got to have honest conversations with each other and talk about these things. And if we can't have honest conversations, then what the heck are we doing here? We get there because we get to this point because we have a president that was a Republican that puts in place one of the most draconian measures in the Patriot Act, and then other things. There's so many things, the FISA warrants and the degradation of our rights. And we tolerate it because he has a Republican in his name. And we did that as conservatives. I'm just saying, I voted for him twice. And I'm like, why? Because I didn't want a Democrat in. And it would have been worse if a Democrat was in. I mean, we can debate that. Like, those are things that we can debate. Would have been better if Al Gore was in? No. Like, these are the terrible things we're faced with. Would have it been better if other Republicans had been voted in along the way? Like, these are terrible choices that we're faced with along the way. And they weren't really Republicans. I mean, we're finding this. I mean, we know these things, Romney, and like, oh, what horrible choices we've been faced with. And so when I was looking at it, like all these terrible choices, and I'm like, man, yeah, we've got a reality game show host president. Like, I'm just like, I was sick with it. And then I was seeing how Colorado, where I'm from, how terrible they have been. And I'm telling you, Colorado, you can thank Colorado for Dominion. You can thank Colorado for a lot of stuff. They are the testing grounds for Dominion. They are the testing grounds for a lot of stuff that you're seeing going on in the around the country. I promise you that. I've been on the ground game for quite a few of these things for a few years, and I had enough, and I got out of it because I burnt out. So we get to where we are. We get a septuagenarian president. We have multiple septuagenarian presidents. We get these old guys that are in because I'm not even saying like old presidents are necessarily bad. But these guys that are so corrupt, and I'm not even saying that Trump was corrupt, but I'm just saying these guys, that Biden, that are just massively corrupt with Burisma and China, like clearly corrupt and covered up by the president, by the press. And there's no investigations going on. There's investigations going on, but those investigations are covered up. Like, that's just crazy to me. That even those investigations are swept under the rug and not allowed to see the light of day. That there's actually good people in the FBI. We keep saying there's no good people in the FBI. There are actually good people in the FBI, but then they're hamstrung by the people at the top. And we get there because we keep electing people without morals and without any scruples. And they stand for nothing. And we keep seeing people that are part of this uniparty type progressive nonsense. So we see people like Kinzinger, and what's her butt up in Wyoming, and Romney. We see these terrible people over and over and over get sent to Washington. That's how we get there. This is how we continuously see these really bad policies get sent, and these jokes of just really bad things happen. And even though I've not really talked much about it, January 6th happens, which is really bad. But it's a byproduct of people being so frustrated with a system that's no longer listening to us, because you have corrupt system after corrupt system. You have 4 years of the media lying to us about Russia and PP tapes, and that have all proved to be false, and that have all been lied to us, and we don't know who to trust, and the press is just lying to us, and you have Schiff coming out and literally lying to us over and over and over and over. And it's just proven false over and over and over. So you get all this group of people shouting at a building, and they don't know what else to do but yell and scream, and then their emotions boil over. And I've actually been at that moment. And I was there at the tea party. The tea parties where I was so mad. And I said, I'm going to get you. But I chose to do a different thing because my values said I'm going to make a difference. But those people that went in chose a different path. We have to choose a different path. My path was to get involved. My path was to say, you people up there are a bunch of hypocrites. And what I chose to do is say, I'm going to get involved, and I'm going to get involved in campaigns, and I'm going to get involved and do this kind of stuff. And so I started a website called The Move Right. It was way back in the day. And that's how I got involved in politics. But what people chose to do on January 6th, not everybody. There was far more people that chose to do the right thing. And some people got swept in it that still did the right thing. They just happened to were walking in. And I think they're also being used as pawns. So there's a lot of bad things that the government is doing that are bad things. And Pelosi is using those people as cannon fodder, and it's disgusting. It's despicable. They haven't released the tapes. There's just so many bad things that have happened. And now we have the mandates. And these mandates are despicable. I'll say it again. If we're not moral people, we stand for nothing. We have to stand for something. I stand for my values as a Christian. At this point in time, I have to tell you something. Because I stand for something, I have to show you. I'm going to actually show you on my screen. I'll just show you this. Okay, on my screen here. This is how to support me. Because of my values, I have been unable to get a job. So I have to ask for these things. So I normally do like Built Bar, built.com, promo code Paul. You go there. It's a great place to support me. It's a great way to support me. Do those things. You can always support me in those ways. People have actually done this also. You can go on this page, Tuttle Twins. People have bought Tuttle Twins. People have bought Built Bar. Go to built.com, promo code Paul. You can also support me in this way. You can click on this link, Linktree /Paul Prosise. You can go to Subscribestar, give monthly through this donate PayPal. If you go on the Subscribestar, I'll actually put another link. You can go join a Discord. I just started up another Discord. I actually used to have a gaming Discord because I'm a gamer. I love to game. I used to be a gaming partner on Twitch and Facebook. This other thing called Mixer. So I have Discord. We can do that. You can donate through Bitcoin and Ethereum. Addresses are right there. For those of you guys that do The reason I'm telling you this is because of my values. Go to paulprosise.com/about, and you can find this. About-2, really? Is that the, I'll have to fix that URL. Go to paulprosise.com, and then it's the about up here. The reason I'm telling you this, because of my values, and because of these mandates, I was waiting for a few jobs that I can actually support my family. And they've all, in the last several months, every single one of them have required the shot. I'm not going to get the shot. Health concerns are number one, frankly, and religious reasons. I'm not going to get the shot. My family's not going to get the shot. My wife has written up a religious exemption for her place. We're not going to get the shot as a family. My kids are not going to get shots. We're taking a stand, but that also means that I cannot get a job. Because of the shutdowns, I had to stay home with my family, with my children. So we made a choice with my family that we were going to stay home. So it also put a strain on we had savings for a very long time that we've made it work. It's worked, but it's not going to work for very much longer. So in order for me to keep moving content for you guys, in order for me to keep doing these things, I have to rely on your financial support, and I have to rely on you guys supporting this. So it is what it is. But we also have to stand for something as well. If we stand for the things that we stand for, they don't have the authority to do what they're doing. That's just the truth. The government only has the authority that we give them. That's what the Constitution literally says. They only have the authority that is given to them. We have all authority given to us by our Creator. God has given us the rights, inalienable. Period. The government does not have the right to take away our rights. The government does not have the authority, and Joe Biden does not have the authority to do any of this. Period. And you can cite all you want, some other 1905 bullcrap, and I'll address that here in a second, because you are taking that out of context. First, let me show you what Thomas Massie said. Congressman Thomas Massie, Biden does not have the authority to force you into take a vaccine, inserting in an administrative agency and your employee in the middle and change nothing. I read that wrong. I'm dyslexic, literally. Inserting an administrative agency and your employer in the middle and changes nothing. This only stands if you and your employee complied with this illegal directive. Like I said, they only have the authority that you give to them. If you comply, they have taken that authority away from them. If you give them that right, it's hard for them to give it back. I've actually talked with somebody very close to me recently that their company required them to get the vaccine. Why? Because they complied with the government on some of the lockdown bullcrap. Why? Because they wanted to stay open, so they shifted how they classified their business. Why? Because they wanted to stay open. Why? Because the government told them to. Why? Because they wanted to stay open. But why did you just not stay open? Because the government said. You could have always stayed open, but they told us to stay open. They told us to close down. So what? They don't have that authority, but they wanted us to. So you could have stayed open. You're providing a good service. It's essential, but they want us to shut down. You don't have to listen to them. That's inherently the issue here. You gave up your authority, and now they're asking for more authority. If you never would have given up your authority to begin with, then you didn't. That now the problem is they're asking for even more authority. And if you keep complying, they're going to keep asking for more and more and more. And you've got to say no. Damn it, stop. Enough. We are done with this bullcrap. We're done. We will not comply with your bullcrap mandates. They are illegal. We are not going to comply. Take us to court. Find out what's going to happen. We're not going to comply. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to go anywhere. We're not going to go to jail, by the way, because you don't have the authority to do that even. Oh, by the way, we found out that they even know this because in a tweet from Biden's, oh gosh, what the heck is it called? Chief of Staff that puts out that, oh yeah, we know that this is a workaround. So they know that it's not even going to work. They're using OSHA to go around this. They're using a workaround. They're using government agencies. Let me pull up a buddy. I'm keeping his name hidden. But he's an attorney. He talks about things. Anyways, he posted on Facebook what this meant. And it's about the 1905 thing. People keep quoting about the 1905 thing. And he addresses this specifically. Jacobson, and it's the ruling within the 1905 thing on vaccine mandates. Jacobson was decided on due process grounds, not fundamental rights grounds, and was not a presidential mandate. This is the distinction here. And this occurred to our current fundamental rights framework. Jacobson is probably the best argument that can be made in favor of a president requiring a medical procedure nationwide, though. Even under Jacobson, health and welfare belongs to the states. Not that I think that a statewide mandate should survive under a constitutional system. And I doubt that OSHA has authority to issue a national medical procedure mandate. So there's a question here. Now, I am not a lawyer. I don't know these things. I'm not that smart. I'm just a guy with a microphone and a camera sitting in my family's living room. The reality is, most likely, this is all going to end up in court. States like mine, Colorado, they're going to comply because we've been taken over by a bunch of hippie idiots. Not even hippie, progressive, ultra left-wing, want to take over everything part of your life. Just dictatorial a-holes. That's what we're facing here in Colorado. Just like they are doing in California and New York, in Oregon, Washington. It's a nightmare. The place that I've grown up loving. They're taking over and they're making it's so bad. I've even done a video on it. They're shutting down Civic Center Park in the middle of Denver. The murder rates are skyrocketing. It's a cesspool. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. Colorado's gorgeous, and they are just ruining it. We've got to stand for something. Otherwise, we will falter. We've got to be moral people. We've got to stand for our morals. Whatever you have your morals in, trust in God. Love people. All right. If you can support me, go to paulprosise.com, go to the About link, and go from there. We'll see you soon. Find me anywhere. Paul Prosise. Have a good one. Bye.